Welcome to the Creative Brew, helping you keep your creative juices brewing. We're giving out chunks of insight, motivation, and practicality for your creative journey. My next partner is Elevate Coffee Trading, and if you appreciate specialty coffee, enjoy outdoor adventure, and love helping elevate the lives of children around the world, then you're going to love Elevate Coffee Trading. Their mission is to extract hope through love, coffee, and adventures. There's free shipping in the United States, and every bag of coffee helps sponsor health and education for children in coffee producing countries and in areas of need in the United States. You can use promo code Elevate21 on your next order, and you can follow their journey on social media at Elevate Coffee Trading. Or you can visit online at elevatecoffeetrading.com, and let's start extracting hope together. My next partner is Elevate Coffee Trading, and if you appreciate specialty coffee, enjoy outdoor adventure, and love helping elevate the lives of children around the world, then you're going to love Elevate Coffee Trading. Their mission is to extract hope through love, coffee, and adventures. There's free shipping in the United States, and every bag of coffee helps sponsor health and education for children in coffee producing countries and in areas of need in the United States. You can use promo code Elevate21 on your next order, and you can follow their journey on social media at Elevate Coffee Trading. Or you can visit online at elevatecoffeetrading.com, and let's start extracting hope together. Another coffee trading. Welcome back.
Okay.
This is a out of bounds episode of the Creative Brew. So this is a little side series that I've been wanting to do. Please, for people that listen, just know that I am live. I'm here at Sands Coffee Roasters. So I want to give a quick shout out to Sands Coffee Roasters. Got an iced coconut mocha with cardamom in there. So you get a chance, if you're in the area, swing by, check out Sands Coffee Roasters right off Oceanside Boulevard here in Oceanside, California. And just here, always supporting local businesses, local coffee shops. Not to say I'm not, for Starbucks or one of the, big brands, but it's always cool sort of seeing people that, started, from with nothing and forming businesses and coffee shops. So those are the ones I love to support. So if you get a chance to check out Sands Coffee Roasters. So now, out of bounds, we're bringing back a past guest. We've got Kate. She is a journaling master. There's so many things that I could probably say about her, but she is the podcast host for Crate for No Reason. She's got a book out right now. If you get a chance to check it out, we're gonna, with this out of bounds episode, definitely we're gonna sort of reintroduce Kate to our audience and to our listeners. But yeah, this is a out of bounds show. So like I said, depending on what the topic of the day is, that's where we're going with it. So Kate, if you want to reintroduce yourself, your origin story, and then we'll get the show started.
Ooh, well, I'm so excited, and I love seeing you at local coffee shops. There is just something so special about going into a local place and you see all the cool people in the shops. And I always am curious when I see someone, especially behind their computer, are they working on a book, a novel, a screenplay, or maybe it's just a proposal? I don't know. It's just always interesting to see what people have going on. So yeah, like you said, I have a book called Do What You Love that came out a couple years ago, and it's all about the creative process and really helping you build a body of work and really spending some time on your creative pursuits. I run a coaching company called Floyd Consulting, where we certify dream managers, and we also do dream manager coaching and training. So that is kind of like what I do full time. But like you and lots of your listeners, I also love writing, and I write poetry, and I love books and reading, and just the whole idea of the creative process and what it takes to come up with an idea and then figure out how you're going to execute on that idea and bring it to life, whether it's a coffee shop, a business, a piece of artwork, or we were just talking about your beautiful designs on the coffee mugs. Just creating something from nothing is just so exciting. And I just love talking about the creative process. And yes, journaling is a very interesting way to get all of our crazy thoughts out of our head and onto the page.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree with that. I've been, and like I said, people hadn't listened to the last show I just put out, last episode. It's about putting it on paper. I'm real big on journaling, real big on putting down ideals, putting down, whatever challenges, whatever things that's sort of swirling around in your head. Put that down on paper. I can't express how much that helps, not only from just practical, from a just a maybe just a practicality wise, but even mentally and therapeutic wise, is just putting those things down. Sometimes our mind can, make something bigger than what it is. And once you put it down on paper and you break it down in little chunks, and maybe you start, maybe daydreaming a little bit, especially when you put things down on paper, some weird things happen when you start journaling and you start putting those things down. Those little things start coming true. So yeah, it's so with that being said, with this out of bounds episode, I'm just going to throw out a little topic to you, and I don't know how deep you get. You know me, I'm a huge in sci-fi. I love comics and stuff like that. So um, right now, I've really been I think from my past episodes, actually recent episodes, and just some talks that I've done recently, I've been really focused on some people's inner childs, and maybe the things that maybe people need to re-explore. Maybe just the concept of play, concept of creativity, um, getting back to that sort of childlike wonder. And I know anytime I come back into town, I find myself, I get my nieces and my little niece and nephew, and we go play and go to the park, and I'll tell them stories, and I find myself reconnecting more and wanting to do that. If with you, if you had the ability to, like, and I know with this out of bounds episodes, it's gonna be more of like parallel worlds, parallel, universes. Maybe if you had the chance to sort of go back and, you had the power to go back in time, and you got to talk to your, 8-year-old self, and you had like maybe like one day to just spend with her. And whatever you do, we can play around with this. Whatever you say to her, oh yeah, it could affect her, but if you really get down into some quantum entanglement type stuff. But what would you say to her? Like if you had a day to spend with your knowledge, with everything that you've amassed, all the skills, what would you want to say to her?
So this is so this is interesting because I had no idea what you were going to ask me, and that's definitely not what I thought it was going to be. But you know, I think about this sometimes because I think that is a question that people like to ask others. Like, if you could go back, what would you say? And there are some people that I look up to that a theme that I find that I really resonate with is when people say, I would tell that version of me to and maybe 8 years old might be a little too soon to say this. This might be a little bit later, maybe in like your 20s, but it would be around enjoy the journey. Like enjoy the moment. Enjoy where you are. Like you're going to figure it out. It's going to work out. And I think when I think about creating things or just creating your body of work, and I think so often we're in such a rush. We're always in such a rush to get things done and get to that next level and achieve that next thing, and we're constantly programmed for productivity instead of programmed for that play and that just allowing to live life. And I know it sounds cliche, enjoy the journey, but it's fascinating to me how many people that have made it to the tippy top of success, and that's what they say. Like, I wish I didn't run around so much. I wish I didn't travel as often as I did so I could spend some more time with my family and my kids. And so I think that every time I hear someone say that, it reminds me of, in fact, there's this I was listening to this. I don't know how many of your listeners watch who's the guy from The Office, the soul the guy Dwight, he has a podcast called like Soul Boom, and he interviews a bunch of people. Anyway, he had one of his guests was, I forget the I don't I'm so bad with actors names, but I forget the actor's name, but they were both on The Office and they were talking about there's this line, apparently there's this line in The Office that he said, I wish I something along the lines of I wish we knew in the moment that we're living in the good old days. And I was like, oh, that's such a good line. And because it's true, right? Like we look back and think about some of the struggles that we might have had when we're like, but there was a fun time. Like we were figuring it out. We were working things through. And maybe we didn't have like a ton of money because we're in our 20s and we're, have roommates and we're doing all the things. But those were fun moments, like some of the most joyful times and more carefree times. And so I'm kind of rambling, but that's kind of the essence of what I feel like going back when we're younger is to and I think for children today and kids today, wow, you think you and I tried to grow up quick. These kids with social media and everything, I find it's heartbreaking when I hear about these like 13-year-old girls that are trying to get anti-aging products for their skin and they're already thinking about they think they're a failure because they're 15 years old and they haven't they don't have a million followers on TikTok. And so those things break my heart because we have this one life to live and it's just chill, man. Like just let yourself be and like truly just appreciate the moments that you have.
Yeah, 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 I agree with that. That's yeah, these kids now, it's yeah, there's just so much that they're dealing with now. And what even coaching at the one of the junior colleges here, a lot of them, talking with them and they're like, Coach, I just turned 20, I just turned 21. I'm like, and I'll start laughing like, what are you're a baby. I was like, you got time. I was like, it don't even get fun. It don't even get interesting until you hit like 40. It don't even get so it's one of those where like I think just taking things into context and I know sometimes it's so weird, these kids, they want to grow up so fast, and then by the time they get to that, to the age that they want to be at, they're like, Lord, I should have enjoyed this more. Um, so I do find myself. I mean, that those are some great points because I do find myself, making sure that I create a little space for play. And I know sometimes it could, especially out here, sometimes it can be a little hard because I want to focus on the business. There's so many things that I need to make sure that I have going, but at the same time too, always remember like the foundation of it, the foundation of anything that I do is based off of play and creativity. Like my, the life that I want to live where I am living right now. I mean, I want to be able to inject some kind of creativity in everything. And knowing that nothing is really set in stone. I mean, I'm a coach right now, but in 3 or 4 years, I might go to something else completely different. And I enjoy that. I mean, I don't want to be one of those where I'm sort of just this is what I am, and I'm doing this. Not to say I would love to stay because I'm staying consistent. But at the same time, too, I just know that you can always micro adjust and you know pull things back, bring stuff back, forward a little bit, maybe things you want to work on, and but it's always practice. That's all it is. It's we're everyone's trying to figure things out, and everybody's journey is going to be a little different. We got a truck coming through here. Everyone's journey is going to be different, and I think that's the fun thing about it. I think sometimes we just take things way too seriously. I know I find myself being, actually being more compassionate with myself more than I used to be. And knowing that, if I mess up something, I tell people all the time, like I mess up so many times, even with my relationship. I've been married for 20 something years and there's still things I mess up on. And my wife is like, it's like you talk to all these people, you do a podcast, and like, and for whatever reason we miscommunicate on things, and I'm like, I don't know, it's just one of those things. I'm still trying to figure it out, and that's the fun thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's wild, it's wild, and I hate it for these kids because they're trying to chase something that's completely false. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I hope hopefully for a lot of these kids they get it. I know I talk to my niece and nephew a lot, and I'm so fortunate because I'm able to be in that opportunity. I had to grow up quick, so I was pretty much like I had to I was pretty much taking you know watching over my little brother, who now that those are the kids that I sort of talk to now. But I had to grow up quick. But with them, I was like, be a kid, like be a kid for however long you want to, and I'll be there to help support your crazy little dreams. You want to do something, hey, let's do it. So it's one of those where I've been really exposing them to art, really exposing them to just different things that they want to try out, create. Heck, I think I was at their house one time this summer, and I did a cartwheel and in the grass, and they start laughing. Then there's like, you can do a cartwheel. I was like, yeah. I mean, it's just how fun. This is one of those where I think they associate with adult feeling like they don't do that or they don't do this. So I was on the trampoline with them, jumping around and doing cartwheels with them. They always go to my wrestling camp. So it was just one of those like seeing, really trying to be a model for them, knowing that, hey, look, you don't, not to say you will grow up, but you don't have to act like that. You can still interject joy
Yeah.
throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean that's why just because we get older do we need to leave behind joy and having fun and doing things just for the joy of it. That is such a huge, like, people look at, and I talk, this is what I talk about in my book, is we've become the society of all or nothing. It's like we have to work. It's like you either have a job and work and that's all you do, or you can figure out how to turn like a podcast or something into a business. And you can do both. You could do that.
Yeah,
However, you get to do both of those things. Like you can actually have a job that you enjoy, but it's not your everything.
yeah,
And then afterwards, you can do artwork and paint and draw and write and take dance classes, do jujitsu, learn to cook, pottery, gardening, whatever your passion is, whatever just brings you joy. Those things, people, we take those off of our calendars as we get older because we have all these responsibilities. And we think if we spend more time working and being productive and getting things done, that's what is going to help us achieve whatever it is we're trying to achieve. When really, incorporating joy into your life, that is the piece that is missing for so many people. When we
yeah,
have that, you get more energy, you get more enthusiasm, you get more engaged in your life so that all the other areas, when you go back to work, you're a better team member or a leader. When you're in your relationships, you're a better communicator, you have more fun with your spouse. It is not a nicety. It is an essential part of life, this play and this creativity. It's essential and everyone has it. We all decide to execute differently on it, what that looks like for you, but everyone is creative. And, you and I, we have something in common. We have so many things that we want to do. So some people, their challenge is like, I remember after I wrote the book, I had people that would ask me, well, Kate, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm excited about. I don't even know what brings me joy. I don't even know what I'm passionate about. How do I find that? And what was crazy was I didn't even consider that when I wrote the book because I'm thinking everyone has all these things, right? But they don't. So I would laugh and I'd say, here, I'll give you some of mine. I have too many to do. But so I feel like it just shows you that we live in this world, but there are a lot of people that they've just lost it. Like they've lost that joy. And so the question that you asked to start is a good one because one of the questions that I ask people when they are trying to figure out what that is for them is when you were young, when you were, I think you said 8, when you were 8 years old, what did you love to do? Did you love to play with Barbies or trucks or run outside or bicycle or play video games or whatever it is that you really just brought you so much joy? And go back to that. A lot of people have started picking back up the musical instrument that they played when they were younger. And then they say, well, I'm not trying to be a famous guitarist or in a band, so why would I play guitar? I don't know, because you like it, because you have fun, and maybe you're really bad at it, but you just enjoy doing it for 20 minutes on a Saturday or after work because you're stressed.
Yeah, and you just brought up a great point because I got a few musician friends out here, and he had one of them told me now I was like there's people that they start music, get into it, they're a professional musician, they're doing all these gigs, and then they get to the point to where it's just a business and they don't even like it anymore. They're just going through the motions. And so yeah, I think it's one of those where like just understanding your perspective. And I think we put so many things just out of context, and we feel like if we pick up something or we do something, it necessarily has to relate to something monetary. Um, Not to say you don't want your ambitions to be there. I mean, like I said, I know there's certain things and like I could see how this sort of relates to my business. Maybe I could use this, but there's some things, even with the like drawing the coffee cups, like if people do buy them, that's great. If they don't, it's just a collection I would love to have to like where I could give that, to my kids or to my grandkids or whatever, after I pass away, like having that collection. But I enjoy the process of it. There's so many people who are like, why don't you like just do a mass production of them? Or I was like, no, I was like, I want to do one because I enjoy like the process of it. And it's just one of one. And that makes it so cool because it's like you see all my mistakes, all my, maybe things that I've worked on, my mistakes, some of my pencil lines, and all that stuff is in there, in that one sort of encapsulated piece. That's what I enjoy. I think what you said. I think we get too focused on the productivity of it, and wanting to get to the end result, instead of just like allowing yourself to play. Um, when
Yeah.
you do that, sort of time starts to slow down a little bit. We get so focused on productivity, we're slaves to time, and we're slaves to like, hey, we have to have this done at a certain time, and that's what controls us. We start to interject play. We're just running around having fun. Doing Lego blocks and doing cartwheels and stuff. Time is irrelevant. And I think just trying to create little pockets of that, trying to keep that for as long as I can. Um, but there was one thing you just mentioned, where with your book. First of all, listeners, get her book. Pray. No, was it? What was the
Do
name
what
of?
you love.
Do what you love.
Do
Do
what
what
you
you love.
love.
I'm thinking of the podcast. Do what you love. Please get her book. You just mentioned real quick that all these people that you connect with, they have their own little worlds. You're coming from the perspective that you should sort of have something that you would love to create, and that might not necessarily be the case. Um, and it had me actually thinking about we're going back around to the scientific sci-fi theory here, is the many worlds theory, and really just talks about that, that for there could be like multiple versions of you across so many different parallel dimensions and realities, um, and understanding that we could all be in one world, but actually many worlds at the same time. So I could see something. Maybe I could see a beautiful flower or something like that. Someone could see the same thing, see it, but perceive it in a different way. Um, so with you, what do you think about the many worlds theory? Do you think there are multiple versions of you roaming around? Um, and what would that even look like?
Oh my gosh. Jeez. these are like big topics. You're just throwing out big ideas over
Yep.
here. So I think you and I talked about this on maybe it was when you came on my show about that. What was that? Well, I read the book, but they turned it into a show, Dark Matter.
Yes. Yeah.
That it was, and it was that was what it was, right? Like it had all these different universes. And so all right, I don't know. And here's the thing. I think about it. I think about it a lot
Yeah.
because I often wonder, it's kind of like that movie Sliding Doors with
Mhm.
Gwyneth Paltrow,
Yeah.
how she gets the train on one version and then she doesn't on the other. And then I also read this other book. I think it's called In Another Life, and it's a novel, and it was same kind of thing. And it's so cool to think about. But what I loved about the book that I read, and again, I think it's called In Another Life, the the story, it was this whole story, and at the end, so and she had lived these two different lives, one where she was like she was with this guy, one she found this other guy, this whole thing. Anyway, the bottom line was, and what I loved about it was, at the end of the story, both versions of her was living a beautiful life, like with all, and like one life she was going through all the heartache, all the pain, all the struggle, and one it was a little bit easier, but at the end both versions of her were happy and joyful. And I thought that was really cool because it just goes to show you, I kind of feel that way with our soul and our spirit. It's like you are who you are, and if you are who you are at its core, like hopefully in these other versions, no matter what the challenges are you're going through, or no matter what beautiful things you get in front of you, you're always using it as an opportunity for growth, and you're taking what you're learning and you're moving forward, and so I hope that that is what it is. It's like I hope that that version of you, whatever that is constant throughout all of these different lives. One thing that I do think about a lot too is like past lives. And I guess when you think about, or when you hear people talk about the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time, and it's all like that's when you get all the craziness of it all. And I do know that there are people in my life that I am convinced that we knew each other in another life. I am convinced that we were either married in another life, or we were siblings or something, because there are, this is not unique to me. I think most people, we meet someone, maybe one person, maybe multiple people throughout our lives, and you get this instant spark, this instant connection, this instant, like, I feel like I've known you forever, and I don't know what it is. And there's this deep, deep rooted connection. And sometimes they're in your life for a moment in time, and sometimes they're in your life for extended periods of time. But there's a handful of people that I think about, and I'm just convinced of it. So I don't know what happens at the end of our beautiful life, but and I don't know about all these other things, but believe me when I tell you, if I if I leave my house and I forget something and I run back, or if I take this route instead of that route, I do think it did another version of me remember it. Did another version of me go back for it, or didn't go back for it, so you, and it is very fascinating to think about. So obviously I don't know the answer to that because nobody does, but I do think it's such a fascinating thing to think about, and how beautiful to think that at the end of it all, no matter what life it is, you are yourself to the core. And hopefully, hopefully you're in that growth mindset in whatever area of life, or whatever that version of your life has in store for you, or doesn't have in store for you.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's cool to think about. It's one of those where you start throwing around concepts like deja vu and and just all kinds of other things where you see something and I'm like, I was like, where have I seen this before? Um, that people have had all kinds of occurrences like that. So
Well, they talk about in the glitches. Like, do you
yeah,
believe in like people talk about, are we in a simulation? And
yeah,
like the Mandela effect. Like,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on those things?
Yeah,
Because
that's an interesting it's an interesting topic because it's one of those where like you you really don't know. I mean, we're only perceiving a small percentage of what we see as, reality. Even the concept of what you think is solid isn't a solid. The only thing that's actually making it solid is because the resistance, the electromagnetic resistance between atoms, between our hands and that object, and it's repelling each other. So we're not even like touching it. It's a small sliver of like electromagnetism that's bouncing, that's repelling the atoms back. So like what's actually real? So when you start playing around with that, if we're under the theory that everything broken down is just energy, then I think that, with that being said, we ideally we could be in some kind of simulation, or maybe something where maybe higher beings are watching us, almost like we were looking at a video game or something like that. um that you got players in there, and they're doing different things, but they're not really aware that someone's watching and playing and controlling them and doing certain things. So like, it's one of those where you start thinking about, is do you have higher avatars or angels controlling us and making us move a certain direction, making us connect with certain people? Maybe there's little hunches, maybe they say, hey, maybe you should go to this meeting, or maybe you should take this phone call. Um, little things like that. I know it's happened before in my life, um, to where I've made a decision like, hey, I'm just gonna go to some meeting or whatever, and I end up connected with the right person at the right time. Um, Sometimes I think more people are open to it than others. I think if you people that journal, that do a lot of meditation, that do a lot of insight, find themselves being open to higher sources, to be able to move the way that they need to go. I think sometimes when we get sort of stuck in ourselves, I think that's where we sort of lose that insight. We lose our with the alchemists, you lose your sort of your personal legend. And So I think you sort of get lost in that process. But I think if you find that practice in creativity and higher faculties, you find yourself sort of open to larger insights, hunches, coincidences, all that stuff starts playing around, and that's part of your normal life. Maybe something happens and like, man, I would love this. Actually, literally, this actually happened to me. I was writing down some things, and I'm like, man, I would love to work with this person, work with this school, this organization. And I was like, I would love for them to contact me. And literally, not even 2 days after I said that, the woman that I've been in contact with, she just became a superintendent at another school district, and now I started doing some design work with that other school district. So it's just one of those where like little things like that, like when you start throwing out stuff, um, that life universe can be funny. It will send certain things back to you. That's if you're open to it. Sometimes we feel like it's just another Wednesday or another Thursday, and we're going through our normal patterns. It's just one of those where like find those openings to be, to be open to other things, be open to, creativity, be open to magic, be open to larger things. I mean, we're only experiencing 4% of what the universe, what life actually is. You get people they've had near death experiences, and they see these incredible things, and that could be a mix of obviously all kinds of factors, but they get back and they're like in so much bliss, Like they're like, why was I even struggling? Like what, like why was I
Yeah.
struggling about life when they see it? So I think for people just we get stuck in our own personal game, in our own personal world, and sometimes we might need to expand our world out a little bit, connect with other people, connect with other insights, and I think when you do that, you're able to um, maybe get a greater awareness of things. So yeah, I mean, it's the world. If you believe it, the world can be a funny thing, and it can mold to you. Um, if you don't believe in that, if you don't believe in creativity, you don't believe in, you know, insights and magic and all that stuff, um, then you'll have a normal life. And I think that we're not here to be normal. I tell my wrestling crew, I was like, look, if you're in here, I'm not expecting you to be normal. Like I want you to um do things that's not necessarily do crazy things, but sometimes like if there's something that's on your heart, sometimes you have to be a little bit obsessed about it. Sometimes you have to like be courageous enough, like go out there and create it. Go out there and just do it and see what happens. You just don't want to be at the end of your life and say and find the answer at the end of your life. Like I wasted all these years being, not knowing, and then I get to the end of my life and you see this grand flash and like, this is who you could have been, and then that's it.
Mm.
That's the greatest, that's the worst thing that could happen. Is knowing that you could have created this. You had the capabilities for it. You were made for it. You were built for it. Uh, and you just didn't do it. And maybe that was that version of you that needed to go down that path. Maybe it's another version that did everything that they wanted to do, and they went another path and got to where they needed to go. But maybe there was a version that, maybe the version of Kate that wasn't courageous enough to write the book or courageous enough to start writing down the things that she wanted to do, and she ended up, opting out for something that was comfortable. I don't know. Everyone's different, even me included, and those are the things I always ponder. Like how do I connect with these maybe multiple versions of me and say, you know what, okay, what things do I need to take? Maybe I need to be a little bit more confident about myself. Maybe I need to um be a little bit more patient. Maybe I just need to have more fun, and let go of the end results on things. Maybe may stop being a control freak with things. So it's all kinds of things to play around with, and I think that's the fun thing. If you think it's fun, if you believe it's fun, then it can be fun.
You just said something, and I had to look up this quote because the this I don't know if this is, I'm just looking up, so I might not have the right person, but it
Mhm.
says it was a Dan Sullivan quote who said the definition of hell is your last day on earth, the person you became meets the person you could have become.
Hmm.
It's like that is where it's every day. Like we have, life is hard. Look,
Yeah.
it's hard, right? I mean, it's easy to get on a podcast and be like, "Oh, and live every day and do this." It's great. It's great. But you know what? We get it. Life is hard and we have challenges and there are things that we deal with that we never I mean, look, when I was in my 20s, I never thought who do you know whose life ended up the way they thought it would?
Oh
Right?
no.
Like
Yeah.
most people, it's not. And some for the better and some for the worse. And there's just so we get it. It's challenging. So why put more challenges on our way mentally, thinking about it and instead of thinking about ways to improve or enhance or we have so much control over our thoughts. We have no control over what happens, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to an extent, there are things that we don't have control over. We have so little control over some of the things that we deal with in life, but we do have a lot of control. And I think that when we place ourselves in the center and say, okay, I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't control. I'm only going to focus on the things that I can control. And that gives us a different perspective. And what you can control is how you view the world and how you view your job and how you view the way that you spend your time. It's when it comes to time, I know time is a big, even in the book, I write about the myths that stop us from pursuing our passions. And there's not enough time is one of the myths. We often say there's not enough time, and yet we always find time to scroll on social media and go online and purchase things we don't need. And, the just so when we find pockets of time to do things that bring us joy and these small little moments, just this morning, there's this guy that works around the building where I am, and he and I was walking into the building, and he said, "Good morning," and I was like, "Good morning." I was like, "Have a great day," and he said, "You too," and he said, you're always smiling. Like you're smiling. You're always smiling. You're always in like a good mood. And he goes, "That's so nice." And I said, "Well, it's a gorgeous day, and look where we live." And he said, "But so many people are not like that. So many people go around their day and they're frowning and they're thinking about all the things that are wrong in their lives." And I said, I know. It is an intentional thing that we have to do every day, right? We have to do it and like think about it. And so we had this lovely little conversation, and it was just it was probably like a 45-second, a minute conversation, but that was a beautiful moment in my morning to be able to chat with this guy. And then what's even funnier is, so I'm walking in, and now I had so many groceries. I don't know if you're like me, but I don't want I don't want to take two trips. So I carry all of my groceries. Even when I'm like, there's no way, there's a way. So I'm walking into my place, and there's this guy, and I didn't realize I didn't realize what facial expression I was making and what noise I probably made, because I was getting to my door, and I had marks on my hands from the bags because I just had so many, and I must have looked like I was in so much pain because it was getting painful, and I made some kind of noise like, "Oh gosh," and this lovely gentleman was like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And he stops, and I'm like, "Oh no, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." He goes, "No, no, no, no." And he comes over and he takes the bags off of my arm, and he like and he walks with me, and he brings them and helps me get into my place and puts it in the kitchen. And we had this little conversation, and I'm thinking, that was so kind. Like, what a kind man. And I think that we attract those kinds of things in our life. If we are out in the world and you're smiling and you're engaging and you live this kind of way, I think you just attract, to your point, you kind of said, right? Like the universe, you're putting out into the universe, like, this is what I want. Like, I want to have gratitude, and I want good for other people, and I want to help make other people's day. And if you do that, it's going to come back to you. And so I think when we are able to live our life in that way, knowing that, yes, not every day is going to be butterfly and rainbows, but that doesn't mean that every day we can't find one piece of gratitude, whether it's a smile from someone, whether it's a nice little email, whether it's one little small success that we can be grateful for that day. It really does start to change your mindset, and it starts to change the frequency of the way that you live and what you start attracting into your life.
Yep, wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, it could be I think for people it can be a hard process, unless like you're people like you're in that daily practice of getting yourself in the right mindset and frequency to be able to put out, because you do, you have to put out so much creativity and inspiration, and that energy that you put out, I think for you naturally bounces back in just different forms. I think some people, they just get stuck in, like, I'm just getting, or consuming, and um, they find themselves not getting anything
Yeah.
back in return. So it's just one of those, like, being able to, definitely switch your mindset on things. getting in the process of giving and being of gratitude and being able to create that energy that you want to see and I think that those things come back to you in different forms. Sometimes, like I said, I think with a lot of people, we want to see it, some kind of physical, we want to see some kind of monetary, give back, but sometimes it comes back into a opportunity or to the people that you need to connect with, that you get to connect with, and then that can transform into something. So it's been, yeah, I think for many people, it's just finding that purpose, um, being open to more love and gratitude and giving, and like you said, those things sort of come back in different ways. So that's what I got today. I know we probably could talk about this for another hour or so, but that is our out of bounds episode for the day. Kate, how can people get in touch with you, get in touch, listen to the podcast, get your book? What's the best way of getting in contact with you?
The best way would just be go to my website, katevolman.com, and that'll take you to I'm mostly social. My social media platforms of choice have been LinkedIn and YouTube these days, also on Instagram. We connect a lot on Instagram. So, but my website's probably the easiest.
Good deal. So great. Hey, this has been another cool episode, another out of bounds episode with Kate. This version of Kate. We're talking about multiple parallel lives and realities here. It's so weird saying that, and that's the funny thing. Like, what was the decisions, all the minute and weird decisions that you had to make in your life for us to connect? That's
I
that's
know.
that's the weird thing. That's the weird thing.
So
So,
crazy.
that could be mind-boggling when you think about the equations on that. Um, so, hey, that's what we got today. Out of bounds episode of the Creative Brew. You get a chance for listeners. If you want to support the show, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/the Creative Brew. And for the price of a cup of coffee, add it with inflation now. You can help support this episode as well as future episodes. So we have the Creative Brew going. We're almost at episode 250. A couple more episodes to go, and then, like I said, starting this Out of Bounds segment. So that's what I got today. Thank you, Kate, and for listeners of the Out of Bounds. Be creative, stay inspired, and that is it.
All I know is hard work, really nothing else. I resort to smoking weed, yo, cause nothing helps. Called the homie up, told him loot the sample up. We gotta come together now, cause I had enough. The time is now, there'll never be another one. It's a second lap.